Hey there, it's day one of Composition Camp and I'm so excited for you to get started making some great music. You're going to have fun the next 2 weeks, you're going to be creative, and you're going to make some really great sounding music too. So here's how this works. Every day I have a video for you that shows you how to accomplish all the compositions. I will show you what to do, I'll show you how to do it, and you will have a really good understanding if you watch the videos on how to do these compositions. So every day make sure you start off with the video, then you get to be creative. Now every day we're going to have 3 or 4 kinds of assignments. We're going to have one that's a creativity challenge. You will use different scales, different instruments, all kinds of different things to explore making music. Second, you will have some orchestration exercises where you take a piano piece, for instance, and you turn it into the Symphony Orchestra Extravaganza or a woodwind trio, anything like that, just so that you explore changing things into different instruments. Third, you will do some stylistic exploration. You will see how you can compose in rock and roll or blues or classical or movie music or something like that. And fourth, you will be able to just have some other time to explore making different music, making different melodies, seeing how music all fits together and works. And so you're going to have a lot of fun. Make sure you watch the video every day so that you know exactly how to do every single assignment. You can always leave comments on your scores and I will answer them. I am happy to do that. So let's get to our assignments for today. Here's day one's creative challenge. Every day of Composition Camp, we're going to have a creativity challenge to challenge you to explore different ways of making music. Today's creativity challenge is going to help you explore different ways of making melodies. One of the things we have to do when we're making a melody is we have to be able to choose which notes we are going to use. Every composer has different ways of doing that, and one of the most common ways is using scales. Today we're going to use a pentatonic scale. A pentatonic scale is a 5-note scale, and it's a very common scale. It can create some wonderful melodies, and so here's the scale we're going to use. We're going to do this for violin. It's 5 notes. We're going to have C, D, and E. Those are in order. We do a skip. We have G, A, and then C. And so what we do is we put those notes in a certain order so that we can create a really cool melody. And of course, the best thing about using this software is that you're able to hear it back to you as you compose. So that way you can hear what you're doing and you can tell, hey, I want to change this, I wanted to change that. And so here's an example of a melody that I wrote for violin using a C pentatonic scale. And so a couple things to notice. First of all, notice how the notes come in order of the scale and how the rhythm changes between slow and fast notes. So notice I start on a C and then my next note is D. And here I would have 2 options. I could go up to an E or a C, but I chose to go to the C. And I go back up, C, D, E. Now I don't have an F, so there's a skip here, but yes, it's in order of the scale. So I go E up to G, and then back to E, D, E, G, and so forth. And the other thing to look at is how I do the rhythm. So I start with a long note. I have some shorter notes, some more short notes. That leads to a long note, but not too long. And then the way I end the first line of it, the first 4 measures, is with a nice big whole note, a really long note. That helps my piece sound a little bit more together and like I'm ending a sentence. Part 2, I do the same thing where I start off with a certain rhythm and then I end with a big whole note. Now, one thing to notice to help your compositions sound even better, try this. Part 1, start on C, end on G. Part 2, start on G, end on C. And so this is just kind of to help you get used to using the software. This is a pretty easy one. There's lots of different things you can do. I added some slurs on mine. So what a violin would do is do that all in one bow. So if this would be a downstroke, for example, they would play all 4 of those notes using the same bow direction. And then same thing here. That's one bow, that's another bow. And I gave them some staccatos. And so just to you hear this one. Cool. And so that's basically the example that I wrote for you. Now down here is where you get to compose your 8-measure melody using the C pentatonic scale. Keep it simple and use a variety of rhythms. Be creative. Have fun.
All right, so here is an assignment from day one of our composition camp. This is a song called The Hunters, and it's a simple one. I want to get you off to a good start here. The idea of this one is that you want to compose and finish the composition in the style of the composer. The Hunters was a really short composition by a man from the 1700s named Daniel Gottlieb Turk. Pretty famous back in the day, but not as famous now. A lot of students will play his stuff. He wrote a lot of things for piano. This is a song that he wrote for piano, but it sounds really good with a trumpet, so I made it into a trumpet song. And you're going to finish this composition using only steps and to complete measure 8 to complete the song. As you listen to the song, notice how the composer uses only steps and a skip with a return. And I'll point that out to you. Also, this is a two-part melody, so there's part 1 here, and then there's part 2 down here. Now, part 1, it's all there for you. You don't have to do anything there. This is a really simple assignment. Part 2, you get to complete this measure and finish it up. If you'll notice, part 1 and part 2 are similar, but they're a little bit different in some ways. So let's just listen to part 1, for example. Here we go. Okay, and so that's part 1, and so if you notice it starts on C, it also ends on D, and it doesn't sound quite finished yet. Now part 2 comes in, and if you notice one thing, it starts on C and it ends on C, and so this is where we need to complete it. So we have to do something so that we only are using steps in order to get from the G in measures 2, 3, and 4 down to C. And so in measure 2, or part 2, it sounds like this. And did you hear where you have to complete the melody here? And so it arrives at G, da 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 da, and then you have to figure out a way using just steps to move it down to C. So probably your next note is going to be an F. Make sure that you're using quarter notes and eighth notes. You're probably not going to be able to use the half note on this one, but just be creative right now and figure out some ways to finish up this song in a way that would sound appropriate with what Daniel Gottlieb Turk would do. So here is the blues rock song, and I make a copy so I don't change up your version of it. And I want to show you how to do this today. It's a really, really easy way to make some really incredible music. And it's also really fun. You get to explore music in a lot of ways. So we're going to use a couple things here. First of all, I give you the A blues scale. And you have the notes here. I'm figuring the melody is mostly going to be in the electric guitar. So that's why I wrote it on the electric guitar line. So A, C, D, D sharp, E, G, and A. And if you stick to those notes in your melody and other things, you will be satisfied with how it sounds because it will sound good. Everything will match. Now, a couple other things to do. Here are 4 electric guitar riffs, and you can copy, paste, and transpose these into different parts of your composition. And it will sound really, really good, and it has kind of a character of what we're looking for here. A lot of times when we're composing songs, we actually go with what the song is supposed to sound like, and there's certain things that go along with that. Just like how we speak. We speak a certain way. You know, if you're from the South, you might say y'all, or if you're from Canada, you might say a. It's just how things go. And so this is part of music as well. It's called idiom. Here's some electric guitar riffs. Here's 3, 1, 2, 3. Notice that every riff is divided up by a double bar. That way you can tell where they start and where they stop. Here are 4 piano riffs. And then finally, here are 3 drum grooves. This is actually the groove right here. It's a very basic groove. Then you have a fill and then another fill that you would do at a transition time. Then lastly, I just gave you 4 common rhythms to use when you're creating your own parts. Using the riffs that I use above, it's great. You can just use those, but sometimes you want to be a little bit more creative, use the riffs, and then use some of your other stuff as well. And so using the notes of the A blues scale and these rhythms, it'll make it sound really, really good. So let me just show you how to compose your song. See, here's your score. It's at towards the bottom of the score here, and all the parts are kind of stacked on top of each other. Electric guitar, electric bass, electric piano. You see the grand staff here. And then here's my drum set here. Also, notice that I have the chords at the very top of each system, showing where the chords are. And if I scroll down a little bit more, you can kind of see where the D is and the A is. It'll change throughout, and then E, D, A, first ending, so you have an E here, it repeats back, and then of course the second time it takes a second ending and you end on A. It would repeat back to here. And so let me just show you a little bit of how to do this. So I'm going to go up, I'm going to kind of build my drum groove first. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go here, I'm going to copy paste, Control C or Command C, and I'm going to paste it into this measure and this measure and this measure and this measure, and I'm going to stop there because this is the first four measures. The next one is the chord change, and I'm just going to wait on that one for a little bit. Let me show you how it works. You can of course play this back, hear what it sounds like. So it has a little bit of a swing feel to it. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back and I'm going to add the bass line to it. So I'm going to start with the most basic one, the first one, and I'm going to paste that in a couple places. And let's see, here's the electric bass part, and maybe I'll do the second riff, or maybe I'll do the last riff. That sounds good. Copy paste. By the way, all of the riffs that I do are in the key of A, so that you can do it anytime there's the A, you don't have to do anything for it. Then I'm going to get the electric guitar part going and see what we got there. I'm going to start here. And so I'm going to play this back, kind of see what it sounds like. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Now, one of the big ideas in music is that we like to repeat things. So I'm going to repeat this chord, or this riff here. And so let's hear what that sounds like. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. And now I want to change it up. And let's see, I'm going to go back up to my electric guitar grooves. And you know, I'm not too satisfied with those, so I'm going to try something else on my own. I'm going to use one of these rhythms in this measure and this measure. And so, let's see, I'm going to start with this rhythm here. Let's hear this back. Okay, now my next measure here, it goes to the D chord, and so all of a sudden I have to change chords. Now let me show you how to handle this. First of all, I'm going to continue with the drum groove and those two measures, and then let me line up the bass part to it. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to get my my electric bass riff here, and I want to show you how to transpose it, because here I am, but I'm on the D chord now. This is in the A chord, so I have it highlighted, and then I want to move it either up a fourth or down a fifth. In this case, I'm going to move it up a fourth because most electric basses cannot play the D way down here. So I'm going to go up with this 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, how can I tell it's in D? The first note is on D. That's the key way that I can tell it with the bass. And I'm going to copy paste over here because it's still on the D chord. I put the chord here once, and then it continues until it changes again. So this measure is still D, even though there's no new chord here. And I'm going to get my electric pattern going. Now, let's see, I can go all the way back up here. I'm going to try this little riff here. Now, once again, I have to transpose it. Now, this one I can either go, again, up a fourth or down a fifth. I think I'm going to go down a fifth here. So that says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have to go down 5. And so that way it starts on the D. And so let's hear this from the beginning. You can kind of see how it works here. Let's push play. And so you can kind of tell that it changed chords there. Now when I get here on the A chord, I'm going to go back to just as written with it. The other one that you're going to do is when you get to the E, and you either you go down a fourth or up a fifth. I do talk about that just as a reminder here. Whoops. When you get to the E, you go up or down a fourth or up a fifth. When the chord is D, you transpose the notes up a fourth. I'll add or down a fifth in there too. And so that's the way you kind of compose your song. And then one other thing to kind of consider on this one, you can add a pickup to the measure right here. Oh, one other thing to mention here, we have triplets. And so here's how to get a triplet on this one. You hit the note, you go to the rhythm, and you say triplet. And then what it'll do is it divides it up for you. So you enter the quarter note, and then you can do the triplet. So something like that. You can kind of be creative with it, with the pickup measure and all things like that. Of course, always play your song back and have fun with it. It's kind of a plug and play type thing. Always ask me questions in the comments if you have questions about transposition, if this sounds good, if what you tried is going to work, if you're staying in the scale, all kinds of stuff like that. Just go up to where it says connect, and it'll bring down this window here. You can add your own comment right here. And just make sure you hit the comment button, which is a little below my screen right now. I can't get there. And then you'll be able to comment with it. I'll see that comment, I'll respond, and we'll have a good time. Have fun.